Welcome back to the Barrel Room. I'm Josh, and I'm joined by
John Martin.
El Jefe, as we call him around here. And we're here to talk to you about our other 3 releases. Check out the Strawberry Kiwi video that's up if you are a sour fan. But if you're a barrel aged fan, if you're a big malty beer fan, we got a little lineup of 3 different takes on barrel aging the same beer.
Yeah, so we took advantage of our pandemic downtime last year, and we wanted to do a big burley brown, and so we did this Imperial Brown ale, and we're really excited about it. We brewed it with the intent of putting it all in barrels, so we ended up with just a little bit of draft that was left over from filling barrels, but it was a project that was dreamed up, and all of these flavor combinations come from Josh's brain there, so they're really great combinations, I think. So he's going to go through them for you.
Yeah, so the base beer has a lot of caramel, like maybe a little light chocolate kind of notes. It's just kind of chewy and full-bodied, so it makes a good base for barrel-aged beer, I think, in general. Maybe not as sweet as like some of our stouts or the barley wines might be, but it still has all the kind of the key notes that get amplified by the barrel. But this was a good chance for us to just kind of try out. We do a lot of different barrels in our barrel aging, right? Like it's kind of like a point of pride for us to use. It's not just all bourbon.
Yeah.
We use gin, we use
wine.
Tequila, we use red wine, we use white wine, we use brandy, we use Scotch barrels, we use rye barrels. And rum barrels. So this is a chance to just kind of try a couple different things. So we've got bourbon, we've got rum, and we've got rye. And then each of those flavors brings a different thing to the mix. So it's just a matter of adjuncting it differently. So let's talk about this bad guy first, the Tartilla, which is, if you're wondering what that name means, it's a French cake. It's like a rum and cherry cake.
Yeah. So yeah, the brown was aged on cherries in the barrel, rum barrel.
75 pounds of cherries in each barrel, tart red, like Montmorency style cherries. So 75 pounds in like a 53-gallon barrel, so quite a bit of cherries. Yeah. Cherries are the star of the show here, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. They come through in the nose really nicely, along with the barrel. I mean, I get the rum notes coming through.
That's sweet, yeah. So these are Caribbean rum barrels, so kind of those big sugar cane, not a Bacardi type product, but good rum. And there's some nice sweetness. The sweetness, I think, complements the sweetness that's like part of the malt bill of the brown, and it helps. The cherries are tart, so it helps balance it out.
It does, for sure. That's really nice.
But there's a lot of rum and cherry desserts out there, cherry flambés. It's always a good combination. I think this is a good combination.
It's funny, I'm getting a little coconut now, which is...
I get that a little bit too. I think it's a little bit from the wood, maybe.
Yeah, the lactones. So 10.1% on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something we've discovered. I guess we've never talked about this on video, so John figured it out. I kept adding whatever the sugar we put. When we put fruit into a barrel, I kept adding, we added this much sugar, so it's going to increase the ABV when we ferment it out. And we kept getting more beer, like at the end, than we started with. And John was like, wait a second, we're adding more than just sugar, we're adding a bunch of juice and whatnot.
Water from the fruit, right.
So I think it's kind of industry standard that like most people add fruit to a beer and they calculate it as they added sugar and it's a stronger ABV, but most of the time,
we're adding a lot of water, and so it's diluting it. This one actually did go up because sometimes we get a little more fermentation, especially with the amount of sugar that's in there. We'll actually add some alcohol, but there's also, it depends on the fruit and how concentrated the sugars are in the fruit.
Yep. Exactly. Cherries actually are like a pretty sugary fruit in comparison to say a blackberry, which we'll talk about here.
Yeah, definitely. And so there was a book, I think it was American Wild Ales or something like that gives a formula for calculating based on how much fruit, what the percent of sugars in the fruit, and so. A lot of math, nerdy stuff, but we use that calculator now to help us
figure it out. So if you guys are ever wondering, you see that we have a base beer and then a fruited version, and that fruited version is a lower ABV. A lot of times that's because there's not enough sugar in the fruit in comparison to the juice.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right. With the blackberries, it went up just a tiny bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about that one. So the second one we've got on offer is Rubus Rye. This is rye barrel-aged beer. A rye producer that many of you might know here in Iowa. And blackberry, John gives me too much credit sometimes for flavor combinations, because blackberry and rye are like, I mean, that's a combination that is meant to exist. There's countless cocktails made with it. They go together so well. And blackberries are my favorite fruit, so I'm always looking for a chance to get them into beer. They're not maybe the optimal for a lot of beers, but I think it works for this one. That rye spice, the oak from the barrel, the caramel malts, and then just that tart, jammy blackberry punch.
Yeah.
It's a combination I love, and we'll go back to this well quite often, I think.
Yeah, I'm almost getting like a little, like the sweet, almost creamy beer that we have, but with the blackberry, the soft undertone of the blackberry.
Yep.
In the nose anyway.
No, like fresh blackberry jam on toast, is one of my, I just love it with breakfast in the morning, and that's what I get, is I get like that blackberry, the smooth blackberry jam on bread, brown bread.
Definitely.
It's a tasty one.
It's tough trying to imagine these beers as they go along, and even getting them into the bright tank. You know, they taste a little bruised, a little rough, and they're too cold, and so you're trying to adjust carb level and things, but it's really nice to get it in the package and then try it.
And particularly get to try these. That's the thing that I really like about projects like these, is this is all the same beer, and we just did different things to it, and getting to see, the impact of all of those and how differently the Tartilla and the Rubus Rye, they share like a lot of notes in common, but they're entirely different beers when you drink them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But they all started life in the same tank. It's the same beer.
It's very much a foodie project. I look at this one that way.
For sure. All right, well, let's talk about the last one, because it's probably, barrel fruit beer. That's pretty simple as they come. This last one we call it Midwestern Manhattan, and it's because it was designed to evoke sense memory of whiskey cocktails, whether an old fashioned or a Manhattan, a lot of those notes. And this one was a little trickier to figure out. So we managed to get some really nice bourbon barrels. They've contributed a wonderful character to this beer. The bourbon is definitely the star of the show, which is ideal because it's meant to make you think of a whiskey cocktail. But we aged it in those barrels on cherries, a much smaller amount than the Tartilla, about half as much, because we wanted it to be a note but not a dominant flavor. We took it out of the barrel after a year, zested fresh orange into it, just enough to give it, just like you would get expressed over the top of your drink at a bar like the Winchester or a bartender's handshake. And then we talked to one of our friends and frequent collaborators on several projects, Mike Gauthier, and then there's also Derek Frodel over there. They helped us work out a recipe based on their house bitters of kind of a bitters herbal cocktail that we could put together and dose the beer with in order to give that aroma and that bitter expression without overwhelming the beer, without drowning out the other flavors. I didn't know if this was all going to come together. We've tried doing this sort of idea in casks before, and it's always been kind of a mess one way or the other. This was kind of a shot in the dark, and I could not be more pleased with how it turned out, because to me, this beer expresses sitting down at the Winchester and having Mike make me an old fashioned or a Manhattan, but also still being beer, still being this brown ale, and the malt comes through.
And I've been on the periphery of this one, so Josh keeps me informed. We talk about it, but it was kind of intriguing to understand, what went into the cocktail version of this, or the bitters, and how that came together. I'm a science guy at heart, and so experimentation is just awesome, and I love to do that. So I'd say most of the time it's worked out over here. There's times when things don't work out, but this one they nailed it. So
yeah, we have dumped beer, but it's not that common occurrence. Yeah, this is, I don't know, this is lovely. I'm geeked out about this one for sure. I mean, I love all of them. Hopefully you guys come down and try them all. Maybe you can get a flight with a flight of releases today, right? The 3 Browns and the Wizard, and give them a try. See which one is your favorite. I think every single one of these has had members of our staff that have preferred that one over others. But yeah, give this a try. If you happen to see Mike and Derek over at the Winchester Pub, tell them that you like it if you like it, and good job on helping us out with. I've never used cinchona bark before, and wouldn't have if it wasn't for them, but it works.
It does. It does for sure. And I love a good old fashioned, and like you sip this and you just get all those elements of the old fashioned. It's really nice.
Yep. Yeah, it reminds me of sitting at a bar for sure. So come down, try these, try the Strawberry Kiwi Wizard, visit our friends at the Winchester.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have the Midwest Manhattan on tap there for sure. So maybe after stopping here, go over there. But follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Come enjoy the tap room. I think the weather's supposed to be nicer this weekend, right?
Definitely.
Maybe
a
little
uptick into the 60s maybe.
Yeah.
I know we're struggling there, but we love you, Des Moines. Thanks for the support. We sure appreciate it. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Cheers.
Cheers.